So based on the feedback from last time, just sort of where we want to slot everything, and then also like where we need to have public hearings as well. So June, sort of finished working on the survey. July, we finalized the survey questions, finalized the format, everything that we want to do it there. And then August, figured we'd meet and then print out the surveys, get a digital copy out, put that on like Facebook and things like that, and then also hard copies. And we want to put the hard copies at the library, at the town hall, and the senior center. Do that, and then we'd gather feedback for September and October. And then at the end of October, we'd gather everything, and then we would review the feedback in November. Do that, and then I think we also said let's also have a public hearing on November based on the feedback as well, that we can share the survey feedback and then get anyone else's feedback that we want. This is not required, just a good idea. December, I left blank because it's the holidays. And then we really put together the proposal for Comcast in January, built that up all the way. February, we review the final proposal and actually send that to Comcast for them. Then they have 30 days to get back to us. So March, we should get their proposal back to us. We'd get that and review it. At that point, after we review it, once we get it from them, right, we have 120 days before the issuing authority needs to accept or reject the proposal. So in April, we would make a recommendation to say if we think we should accept or reject it. And then also we're required at that point to have a public hearing on the proposal before we either accept or reject it. That's part of the guidelines that we have to have. And then May is sort of open just in case things, depending on how things are going. And then tentatively June is where we send either the accept or the reject. So soft deadlines just based on their recommendations. End of April, about a year out from the licensing expiration, we should have our assessment done. It's a soft deadline for them, but then October is actually where it's mandated to have that assessment done for sure. So there is enough time to do everything. Of course, then the license expires in April. So right now, the current schedule very much meets those soft and hard deadlines. So we should be well equipped to have that done before the license expires.
Any questions on that? It looks fairly doable, as we discussed in our last meeting, and I think the shooting for the soft deadline or whatever it is makes a lot of sense, I think, and I believe that it's something we can do.
And we also have wiggle room just in case things could take a little bit longer and things like that. So we've got some really good safe buffer room. So
I have a question for you, Jeff.
Sure.
And or Ken. Is this information posted on our website? And if so, where?
The timeline?
Yeah, timeline.
I would say that it's not yet on the website.
It's not, but we can. Like, if we're good with this, then I can figure out with Jenny about how to post it on the cable advisory page.
Yeah.
Put a link or a document there.
Yeah, this is just something that we put together the last time based on what the document at the state level says, and but you're certainly right that to have it on the website makes sense, and it will be not only good for us, but it'll be good for the public to know what they need to do when in order to provide the feedback and to participate in the public hearing and all that sort of stuff.
All right. I'll stop that share. Looks like Patrick was able to join us as our guest speaker.
Hi. Good evening. If you need more time, I can come back.
No, I think it's just fine.
Yeah.
I think we're at a good spot, and so we're happy to have you. And after you introduce yourself, we can introduce ourselves and sort of go from there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yes. So as some of you may know, my name is Patrick Sherins, and I'm the new government affairs liaison, working with Bolton and several other towns in my portfolio. I have a long career in government service myself. I'm from Boston originally, went to Northeastern and Suffolk Law. I worked in Washington for a while in the Obama administration, Department of Justice and the Department of Labor, and also spent a little time as a federal prosecutor as well. I've also done some labor law and labor government affairs work before coming over to Comcast just about a year ago. Being a Massachusetts native and resident, really do enjoy working with towns and communities. I also briefly worked for, not briefly, but for a couple years, worked for Senator Kerry's office in the early 2000s and following his presidential campaign, where part of the things I did was kind of go with him around the state to sort of reintroduce himself and get to know folks following the campaign for presidency in 2004. So I know a little bit about Bolton, and looking forward to working with you guys collectively, not just on the current negotiations we have coming up, but also on any other issues that may arise that I may be able to lend a hand with. I think I know Ken has my contact information, but I'm happy to share that with you all as well. So on that note, turn it over to you, Ken. Thank you.
Okay. So we have a 7-person advisory committee. There are 5 of us on the committee who are present at the moment, and Nikki McGackey, who is in the bottom corner of the Zoom screen, is the head of Bolton Access Television, and so she's sort of an ex officio member of the group and advisor to us and helper in all things having to do with Access TV. And I don't know if we each want to introduce ourselves or not, but we have some relatively new residents, and then we have 3 of us who are involved in the committee, have been involved in both in cable television and in town politics for more than 20 years, and so have 2 of us were on the committee 10 years ago, and 2 other people were there at the start of Bolton Access TV, Ed and Bob Johnson, who isn't here tonight. So I don't know if either of the rest of you wanted to say anything before we get into comments or questions with Pat. Anybody want to comment?
I'm good.
Okay. So anyway, I didn't see exactly when you came in, but if you came in while we were discussing the timeline, we're kind of at the beginning of the process. We haven't officially declared go yet, but obviously we're doing stuff, and what we're shooting for, as was noted in that, is to have a package to you like next April, so that you'll have plenty of time. We'll have plenty of time to work out any of the particulars that are there. I guess let me start it off. One of the things that came up at our last meeting that sort of prompted us to invite you is what we've had the last, I'm going to say 2 years, and Nikki can correct me if that's incorrect, is that we've had a reduction each quarter of about 3% in our revenue at Bolton Access TV. And so that's obviously not a great thing for if we want to continue to provide the service that we're supposed to provide. And so one of the questions, I guess, is whether that's something that you have seen in other communities, and if so, if from your side of the fence, whether there is anything that you would suggest that can be done to sort of, other than obviously more cash, but I mean, any things that can be done to offset the potential impact of that kind of revenue drop each quarter.
Sure. Well, so kind of the lay of the land, from our perspective now is, the cable television has, come under attack from, satellite, different providers, different mediums, and the, it has always survived. The latest effort from folks to, cut the cord and stop cable television service, as you've seen, it is having an impact. The Nobody can sort of know for certain what the future holds, but when we do these particular negotiations, it's just around cable television subscribers, not broadband subscribers or internet only subscribers or whatever else. So the PEG funding, the support for that is coming directly from Bolton Town cable television consumers. So with the growth of the internet and new avenues for people to participate in government, to see meetings, to engage, is a great thing, for democracy. But what's happening is there's a shrinking base of cable television subscribers in each town. But then what was formerly, for lack of a better word, exclusive PEG content can now be accessed, on a YouTube channel or on the website or wherever else. And in this, and again, as I said, it's great for democracy, but it is having a financial impact on towns. Now, over the last decade, 3 decades, I know Comcast has been a dedicated supporter of PEG access. We've given tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to support PEG access to get started, get up and running, and function. And we are dedicated to continue to support PEG access and being a partner through our statutory obligations and also contractual obligations, and just because it's the right thing to do. Now that being said, because the cost is being passed on directly to the town cable television subscribers only, we do have to also kind of consider what's in the best interest of the paying subscribers in the town as well. So if there's only, I think it's around 1,500 or so cable television subscribers in the town now, and if that number goes down and they're bearing the weight of supporting PEG access themselves, even though people throughout the town can access content through other mediums, towns are starting to look at potential for supplemental or alternative funding. Now, that being said, who knows what legislation could come down in the next couple of years to encompass other mediums or other avenues for funding that would come through direct billing and whatnot. But I know in some parts of the country, as this is happening, people are getting creative with ways to get additional funding. I know some places are doing the sort of, PBS style, fundraising. I know towns are starting to, in some cases, are starting to offer, some more money as well. So, there are several different levers that the access folks can kind of do on their own to try to generate more revenue. And then, from our side too, when we get into our negotiations, we'll have to see what sort of the playing field looks like a year and a half or 2 years from now. I think we're right at, I think it's about 4.5% of the gross annual revenue is the franchise fee payments that the town has. We, can go up to, maybe up to 5% there. But part of the problem is there's a new directive from FCC. I believe it's Section 621 has now said that anything that we give to the so basically it's put that sort of 5% ceiling on what we were able to sort of give to towns in terms of like compensation or deals with folks. So if there's any if we max that out at 5%, which is certainly possible, well, we still face the dwindling subscriber count potentially, but it will also kind of put a ceiling on any other kind of compensation that we'll be able to provide to the town as well. So the long and the short of it is, we will continue to be partners. The ways we're kind of doing it now is, the franchise fee funding, which is based off the 5%, which comes straight from the statutory regulation. And, as well as providing as much capital as needed to, adequately help. We have to weigh the balance between helping fund the cable access folks and then the burden it's going to put on the cable subscribers. So I mean, I think going forward over the next 10 years, until alternative legislation comes through, which it may or may not, there still will be funding coming from us, of course, but it may be wise at least to consider down the road ways to kind of supplement some of that funding as the cable subscribership, may continue. Well, looking at it now, may continue to drop, but as more and more people have cut the cord, they're kind of finding that between paying for Hulu, HBO, CBS All Access, the YouTube TV, this and that, you're basically buying a cable package anyway. So there is some consideration that there could be sort of a slingshot back to sort of traditional box cable as well. But I mean, that's all kind of up in the air. So I'm just trying to be as transparent with you as I can on this.
That's really cool. So are you saying...
Anybody have any questions or comments that they wanted to make? Patrick? Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. So it sounds like you're seeing the trend pretty much across the board in all the towns. It's going down, so they have to resupplement. Are you seeing towns do anything creative to like help with like the TV, like anything about like sharing between cities or working with other things? Just curious what you've seen other cities doing with it. So
yeah. I mean, well, Massachusetts is a little different than some other states where they are doing more regional. A regional broadcast, like a county-wide broadcast or what have you. Now, we're a different entity. I understand that. But that is one thing that folks are doing. And I would never say, we want less content available to folks. But, unfortunately, if people can just access it for free, why are they going to pay for cable to watch the programming? So, doing those kinds of like I said, like fundraisers or doing different like funding drives and things like that. That's one thing that I have seen sort of starting to happen. And like I said, it's not like the well's going to go completely dry by any means. Just because the way it works is every town has their PEG access, so every town's subscribers pay for that town's access. Like I'm sure Bolton wouldn't want to be paying for Cambridge's public access, and and vice versa. But that is something that folks have been talking about doing in the state. I haven't seen it happen yet, but that is a definite possibility. It's just such a catch-22. Like I said, obviously having more content available to more people is ideal. But as the paying base kind of shrinks, and some other folks, they are looking, in different capacities to town coffers for some kind of budgetary expenditure, because as you guys know, particularly even through COVID, it was kind of lifeline for a lot of people to be able to see what was going on in government, and it is very important. And like I said, we will still be full partners, but the nature of how the statutes are written, it's 5% of the gross annual revenue. So if there's shrinking gross annual revenue for cable television specifically, that just kind of where we are. I know different cable act. I know there's some access groups around the country that have been talking about this. I don't have any direct links or direct data to give you right now, but there are, I know there are groups out there who are kind of talking and strategizing to come up with ways to, help sort of supplement the funding. And then the terms that we kind of are working with internally now may be different, in a year and a half or when we actually enter negotiations. So, I don't want to promise we could do this funding stream or that funding stream, but, as I can tell you, as long as I'm here, I support communities. I will do whatever I can on my end to try to, come up with a fair and supportive, deal for the town. And I'm happy to talk through this with any of you, offline or separately to, or even just try to help come up with some of those creative ways. But the biggest thing that I've kind of heard folks doing is that sort of funding drives, public access funding drives, and then just trying to get some kind of line item expenditure in the town budgets. So that's kind of where it stands now. But again, my phone door is always open. I'll happy to chat with anybody about this at any time. Anyway.
Okay. I did have one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you talk about it's 5% of the gross revenue. So when it comes to people that do the bundle packages to say, hey, I'm doing the internet, the phone, and the cable, is the gross revenue coming from a percentage then of that bundle package to say this is that part of the package is the cable part, and that's how that works?
Yeah. I mean, and if you look at the bill, yes, we're it's marketed as the bundle, but it is kind of line item to this is what you're paying for your cable, this is what you're paying for your internet, this is what you're paying for telephone, and what have you. And then the other, it's not just the bundles that the money is derived from. It's someone's watching Home Shopping Network, right, and buys something. Portion of the our cut of that. You get a cut of that, and then it's not literally just the package people are buying. It's the other items that are coming over, pay-per-view purchases, right? That also drives revenue as well. It's pretty much anything that's purchased over the box, television box itself. When you get into the streaming services, that's technically something different because that's technically an internet thing that's coming through. I'm not an engineer. I can't give you all the full details on it. I think at one point the State House was looking at some kind of taxation on streaming services, but that I'm not sure where that is. And I'm not doing the State House beat these days, but frankly, I would assume it's and again, not this was no inside knowledge, but I would assume at some point there would be some kind of national or federal legislation sort of around this issue, whether it be an update to the Cable Act or be some new thing, but nothing has been, sort of is really on the forefront right now to do that. And, we have to just kind of play within the bounds of what we have now. But I'm certainly happy to share with you guys if I'm hearing anything through the grapevine of different ways to kind of help supplement the funding as well.
Hi, Patrick. This is Nikki McGackey with Bolton Access TV. Pardon my voice. I'm getting over something myself here, so it's a little off right now.
I was there a few weeks ago, believe me.
So we're at 4.5% for our franchise fee percentage, and then we have a 0.5% access payment. Those two things together, does that hit us to the 5% cap?
I would have to check with our finance people on the specifics of it. I know what we've been sort of the structure that you guys have was sort of a payment structure that we had been doing here and there a few years back. So, before the 5% cap legislation or rule, regulation rather, kind of came through.
Oh,
So, technically there are kind of two pots you're looking at. There's the 5% cap, or the franchise fee payment, and then the capital payment are two separate items. So, in theory, the franchise fee payment could go up, and then the capital payment, because that's assessed directly on the customers. We have to kind of take that into consideration. So basing it on the gross annual revenue, which is kind of a different sort of way of doing it. What most towns kind of do, or the model that we've been working off most recently is, we come up with like a fair number. We figure out, what that will end up costing each subscriber in the town. And as long as that's sort of a reasonable number with an outlook as to, where the trend is going, that's how we kind of derive the capital payment now. And that's usually an annual payment.
yeah.
And we prefer, and again, this is how we're doing stuff today. There's also ways we could do it, per subscriber basis, but maybe give a little more on the front end, knowing that it may decrease over the years. So we can, when we get into negotiations, we can talk through some of those particular strategies. But that was the long way of answering your very simple question of, my understanding is that the 4.5% franchise fee payment, that could, in theory, go up to 5%. But, there's things like, courtesy services at any of the buildings, or, any of those kind of benefits, those have to be monetized and counted against whatever that 5% fee is. So whether it's just lowering the fee itself, or, having to start billing for courtesy type services, that we've kind of always offered, and then have to like kind of deduct it from the 5%. How this rule is being enforced is still kind of, or the actual mechanics of it are still being hashed out. So we're following the letter of the law right now for sure. And I think it's just more of a consideration going into future license agreements than it is at this moment in time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Questions or comments?
Any drive toward HD? The HD channels moving peg to HD quality? Is that something coming? Do you see that pervasive across the system?
Yeah, that is something a lot of towns have been asking for in the new license agreements. Okay. Generally, what we can hash it through when we get there, and I'm not sure where it's going to be at that point in time. But I know, as we've been building bandwidth on our system, it is definitely not unreasonable for towns to ask for an HD channel. The way we've kind of been doing it is like, let's say you have the 3 channels or 2 channels, whatever it may be. What we've been doing is like, we would technically take back one SD channel and give you an HD channel. So there'd still be 3 channels, but one would be HD. And I have to double check this, but I am 99% certain that if it is in HD, it is still sort of like, I don't know if simulcast is the right word, but if you don't have HD, you wouldn't. Yeah, you would still be able to see what was going on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the way, as I said, the way we've been doing it, if you guys would like to get an HD channel, that is certainly something we could put in the mix for the negotiations.
Okay, thank you.
And Nikki, am I correct that we're still analog on our output?
Well, we have the capability to output HD. I mean, Castus outputs HD, but right now we downgrade it to send it to Comcast.
Right. Yeah. So right now we're just sending you an SD signal, even
Yeah.
though we can produce more than that. And I don't even think that it's digital as far as I know.
I don't
Yeah.
believe it's digital.
Yeah, I know a lot of folks have been, what we've been doing is, again, this is something we could talk through when we get into negotiations, but, upgrading the Encoder equipment. I know there's like I believe it's like SDI. It's like the the higher end of like a standard definition. It's not quite HD quality, but it's just like an upgraded encoder. And that's something we can certainly talk about getting for you guys as well. As part of the negotiations.
Okay.
Actually, I thought I'd ask, since you mentioned negotiations, how long do you see typically towns take to do negotiations? Like, on average, how long do they usually take?
Yeah. I mean, so there's some official deadlines and official paperwork. Like technically the window opens. I think it's about 39 months prior to expiration. But usually it's kind of like about a year out is where we start actually, getting things done. And for us, it definitely sweetens the deal to get things done early. Before things expire. I mean, if it expires, it's not we're gonna turn off cable to the town or anything like that for sure. But if we can't get something done ahead of time, reasonable for all parties, of course. It's we can get you guys on the list for any capital upgrades sooner. We can kind of move things along, and it is a benefit for us as well to get things done a little bit early. So I would think probably about a year out is where we would probably have sort of the usually what I would do is I would kind of like do like a draft just kind of based on our current terms, boilerplate language. I would just kind of upgrade the current license just so we have like a working document to kind of work from. And then from there, you guys would just tell me like, hey, can we change this, that, the other thing? This is good, this isn't good, and we'll just kind of hash out the actual, points of I don't want to use the word contention, but the points that we want to negotiate around. So yeah, as I usually start about a year out, and then by the time drafts go back and forth and meetings happen or meetings are canceled and this and that, it would be ideal to kind of have something in hand, maybe 6 months prior. Like I said, if it ever did get up to the line there, it's not like we'd be turning off the power or anything like that. But just in order to keep all the payments coming on time and everything else, it's better to get it done than not get it done.
Yeah, and our objective is basically what Jeff was showing when you came on, which was in that time frame of what you're talking about of that year. So I think we should be okay.
Yeah, and I'm always available if there's anything that's coming up that you need help with here or there. If any problems with signals or whatever is going on, you can always reach out to me for that stuff ahead of time. But then when we actually sort of do the sort of official negotiation, it's not official. It's when we just engage in the negotiations, we can do that as well. Yeah, like you said, on that timeline.
Anything else anybody has for Pat? Okay. Well,
Thank you.
I think we're all set then.
All right.
Very much appreciate your time. I'll give Jeff your contact information to put in the minutes so that everybody on the committee will have that.
Awesome. All right, great. And
we'll do whatever the next step is for officially kicking it off. Right. Over the next few months, and that way we can meet that timeline.
Thank you. And if there's ever any other hearings you'd like me to come back to, I'm more than happy to do it. Okay. And it was great meeting you all. I do look forward to working with you. Okay. And thank you again, Kim, for putting this together.
Very good. All right. Thanks very much.
You too. Have a good night.
Okay. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
So the other agenda item is the draft survey. Jeff, do you have questions that you want to put up on the screen and go down as a group, or how?
Don't
would you like
yet.
to do it?
My month got away from me, so I wasn't able to really synthesize a lot of information.
Okay.
So I don't have much to show right now, to be honest.
Okay.
So I'd rather wait till I have something
Okay.
a little bit better to show, to be honest.
Well, that's certainly okay.
So, if I can add to that, so
Yeah, please do.
I drafted a survey questions for cable TV, and I was not really clear whether I could post this or whether there's a place on our site where I can drop this document and then have other people take a look at it. I don't know what the right process is here, but I would have loved to share it with everybody. I know there's some restrictions there.
Any reason we just can't email it around, or do we need to make it official, like on a town website, or can we do a Dropbox?
I'd love some guidance around that.
I guess we could check. I think emailing it around is okay.
Okay.
But it's the responses that are not necessarily things that you want to send around. So, so probably what I would suggest, I guess, is that we'll see if this works. Is that you send it around to everybody.
Yeah.
And Jeff is working on something similar. And so, Jeff, when you get to the point of having something, you send that around as well. And then either we hold off all our comments until the next meeting and bring them all together, or I guess we couldn't really collaborate on a document yet, though, right? Online. Is that true? Because that would be deliberating, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think that if multiple people are making comments on the document, that would be considered deliberation.
Yeah. So so JP, why don't you send around what you've written?
Okay.
Jeff, why don't you send yours around, and then once we have all of those, then we can, a week or two after that, we can call a meeting. Well, either we can set a meeting now and have everybody basically review them and have their comments ready, and then we discuss them. That would be okay. Now, the other thing, though, I guess, that would be okay is if JP and Jeff work together on them, because they don't constitute a quorum.
Right.
And so one of you, depending on which one of you was ahead, could be the one to create a document between the two of you that incorporated the best of both what you were doing, and then you could present it the next time. And that does not constitute deliberation, because it's just 2/7 of the group. So that might be the way to do it. So in the same way, Jeff, that you and I sort of collaborated offline on the timeline, you two guys could collaborate on the survey. And one of the things that I believe I did not do was to get a copy of the last one. And so I can try to do that, and I'll send that to the two of you so that you could do it. So if you guys are up to doing that, then that's one way we could do it between now and the next meeting, is that the two of you come up with what Jeff said he was going to do and what you have done independently.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I can do that. I just was not really clear on the right process, so this helps.
Okay, and I will try to find a copy of the last survey. Nikki, do you know if we would have that kind of thing in our office?
Possibly. I have seen some paper responses to a survey in the file cabinet, so I can.
Yeah, they're green,
see
right?
what's in it.
As I remember, it was on green paper.
Yeah, is it green or yellow? I can't remember.
I think it was green.
There's
but
something floating around like that.
What I don't recall is what form we put the results in, but I guess we're not looking for the results as much as we're looking for what they are. So if you find it, let me know. I'll look at my end, and in either case, if we can get that to JP and Jeff, then they can work on that toward the next meeting.
Yeah, I'll have a look and see.
Okay.
Okay. So is there anything else that anybody has in the way of other business or anything else related to the survey?
I do not.
Okay.
Okay, now.
What is Thursday still a good time to meet?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Works for me. Seems like we've missed a couple people last couple times, but I'm not sure if that's due to family stuff
Right.
or just Thursday a bad day for them.
So there are 5 Thursdays in June. So we could meet the 30th if you wanted to do that. Or we can wait
double
until.
check and make sure that's not a selectman Thursday.
Yeah, I'd rather wait till like July 7th, like just the end of
Okay.
the month. That's the 30th is my son's birthday,
Okay,
so
July 7th. Okay. All right, let's try for July 7th then, and we can always change that if we need to.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. That works.
Okay, so I think
July
that's all
7th.
we have.
Yes.
sounds good. For the agenda for the July 7th, so minutes review,
Survey review.
survey review.
Right. And then other business, and we can see what else we can stick in there. Okay?
Good.
So, motion to adjourn then.
So move.
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We'll see you
Good
later.